Hi, if you like the video, please remember to subscribe.
So what I'd like to have a quick look at is the Canon EOS 350D Rebel XT and how you can use M42 lenses on it, and the lenses I've got and how you get them to fit. So this is the 350D with the Canon EF 50mm 1.8 on it. This is the lens adapter we're going to use to convert it to the M42 mount, and then we've got a 28mm, a 50mm f1.8 and a 90 to 230 zoom and a 2x teleconverter. Now, the thing to remember with these lenses is they're manual focus lenses, so when you're focusing you've got to turn the focus ring, but you can use your camera in aperture priority mode, so you don't have to worry about exposure. You've got to do a bit of exposure compensation normally, and you do something called, you can do stop down metering if you want to get a nice bright viewfinder, but I've been pleasantly surprised with the results I've got, and it's relatively easy. So first thing to do, let's whip the Canon lens off the 350D. So we just press that, turn that and take that off. Now the problem is obviously the Canon mount, the EF mount or the EFS mount is a bayonet, where M42 lenses are a screw thread. So what you've got to buy for about £6 or £7 off eBay is one of these babies, which is an adapter which has a bayonet mount there and then a screw mount. Now this one is particularly good because it also has a flange around the inside, see, around there, and what that does is it makes sure that when the lens is on the camera, it makes sure that the aperture closes up. Let's see if we can see that in action. So with M42 lenses, they normally have an automatic and a manual setting, and in manual, when you turn the aperture ring, see the aperture closing up and opening up like that. But if you have an adapter that doesn't have a flange and the lens doesn't have a manual setting, what happens is you're in automatic setting on the lens and you're changing the aperture and nothing happens. But because this adapter has a little flange on it, presses down on this little pin, which means that we press down on that, and even in automatic mode you can see the aperture opening and closing like so. Okay, so what do we do next? Well, we take our camera and carefully we simply take our adapter, line it up with a little hole like so, turn it, and you'll hear it click. And the adapter is now on. Now obviously you can put it on the lens first and it's a little bit easier to do then. So that's got the adapter on, as you can see, doesn't look too much out of place. And then what we can do next is we just take our M42 lens and simply screw it on, and we're ready to rock and roll. So there you can see the aperture going on and out. And then what we would do, if we would turn our camera on and just make sure we're in aperture priority mode, and then what you find you can do, you probably won't be able to see if we can see anything, no, but see, as I'm changing the aperture, see how the viewfinder's going dark? So that's the main disadvantage you have when you're shooting at tight apertures. The viewfinder can go quite dark, especially if you're shooting it inside. So what you tend to do is find your subject, focus on it manually, and then stop down and then take your picture. Dead easy. So there we go. So that particular lens we're looking at the moment is a very nice auto 1.8 50mm. So the Canon 1.8 50mm costs about £90. This one cost me £5 with a camera as well. Just turn that off. So we just unscrew it. That comes off there. And then what we've got here is a 20mm. No, sorry, 28mm I think this one is. Let's have a look. Yeah, 2.8 28. put the rubber lens cap on it, and that goes on very nicely for more of a wide angle shot. Obviously with the 350D we're shooting with a crop sensor, so you times it by the focal length by about 1.6 to get the 35mm equivalent. So in fact this is more like a 50mm lens. So it's really good in perspective for landscapes and all sorts of things. Now the really interesting thing though is with this zoom. So here we have the 90 to 230 solid gore zoom, which is a, let's have a look at this, see if we can look at the end of it. I think it's an f4.5, so it's a huge old lens and it's incredibly heavy, and as you can see it's got a tripod mount on there as well, built-in lens shade, and then to mount it, so we can take that off and we screw it on. But what we can also do is we can use this little baby. So this little baby is a 2x teleconverter, teleconverter 2x. So what we can do with this is we can screw this onto the zoom like so, and then screw the whole thing onto the Canon like so, and then what we've got is this huge lens, which if we say at 230 and then we times it by 2, so that's 460mm, so then we can times that by another half, so it's 1.5 because of the sensor on the Canon. So what's that, 460, so that's another 230, so what's that, that's 460, 660, almost, what did we say, we said 230 to 460 plus another 200, 660, so about 690, so it's huge, almost 700mm focal length on that. Obviously it's going to be very, very dark because it's a 4.5 lens, so you're going to be shooting outside, probably at high ISOs if the light isn't very good. But I think this lens cost me about £6 or £7 at the car boot sale. So yeah, so there you go, M42 lenses on a Canon EOS 350D. And actually there's one other thing that I want to show you as well, which is a extension tubes for shooting macro shots, and I'll just get one of them and show you. You just admire that big lens for a moment. And so what we have here are extension tubes, and what these enable you to do is to focus really close with your lenses for macro photography. So what you can do with this is whip the 2x teleconverter on, stick on, I don't know, I'm not that good with these yet, I don't know exactly how many you're meant to put on, but that goes on there, then that goes on there, and now we've got a beast of a macro lens. The problem with it is that again you've got to be very, very steady, probably using a tripod. I've done lots of handheld shots and they seem to work okay, but the depth of field is absolutely tiny if you're shooting wide open. But it's good fun to play with. M42 lenses are pretty cheap if you buy them from the from your local car boot sale. They're getting quite expensive online, so I'd say just look out for second-hand examples that come on a camera, like the old Praktikas, and you'll end up with some really quite nice lenses to play around with. So there we go, there's the Canon EOS 350D or Rebel XT with some old M42 lenses that are doing me proud. That's Rob from robdonphoto.com. Thanks for watching.